Well, as you're reviewing this video, it means you've made it to week 4, which means you made it past week 3. So this is really a good thing. As I was just looking at posts and seeing some updates there, many of you took it to heart and have done a thorough job. There'll be some learning. There'll be some feedback I give you that will help you better understand some of the terminology and what things that you find in the 990s that are probably most helpful. And I'll probably do a little more discussion on it as well as far as some of the learnings, because suddenly you begin to realize, boy, there's a lot of revenue that goes through non-for-profits. There's also a ton of expenses. And so it may change the way that you're thinking about non-for-profits and certainly understanding their scope for some of you. So anyways, we'll talk about that. Just for a moment, I want to jump to a personal thing. If you watched the video last week and now you're seeing it this week, I have this stuff growing on my face. It's an interesting season right now because both Professor Stanf and I are both growing beards. And so as we met this week, we had to laugh about it. But it actually works along with this class very well because both of us are involved in what I would say are non-for-profit kind of charitable works. And so Professor Stanfa is growing his to accommodate playing Santa Claus coming up in this season. Mine is that I am part of the Les Mis cast for Kankakee Valley Theater Association, a local non-for-profit. And so, short commercial here. If you're interested in that show, we're going to do it really well. We open November 8th and we'll run both weekends. And though I'm not one of the lead parts, I get to support some really fantastic leads, some of whom are Olivet graduates. So anyways, if that would be of interest to you, kvt.org. Is that non-for-profit and an area where I get to jump on the stage a little bit, and it's fun to be part of it. But I get to be a little bit shaggy this time of year as a result. Okay, back to the substance of the course. As you jump into week 4, you're going to see it has a lot to do with donor intention. And this is a really hot button when we looked at designing the course and what the issues would be that become really important ones for people to understand around boards and governance. And from the staff side, it's the agreement that the non-for-profit has with its donor. Now, those donations come in a variety of forms. As you've learned, a lot of those are program services. And so if you are a member or you get services from a non-for-profit, there's an agreement that occurs, and we understand that because that resembles a little bit more of the for-profit world when we're a customer. But there are a couple other ways that money comes in primarily. One of those would be grants from government entities, from local or family foundations and private foundations, other foundations, and other non-for-profits that might support a non-for-profit. And so there's an agreement, and sometimes those agreements are very, very in-depth. If your non-for-profit or one that you're involved in receives money from the government, my goodness, sometimes because of just simply the reports and the overwhelming requirements, it's almost impossible for a non-for-profit to make the case to take in that money. And so, even in the American Reconstruction Recovery Act, ARA, a couple of years ago, some of those grant monies went largely unused because the burden of reporting was overwhelming to those non-for-profits. But the other way that's much more practical is with the donor, with the individual donor. What is the agreement on how the funds will be used in the organization when the donor gives that money? Now, an organization is not bound to receive a gift if the donor, for example, wants to designate the dollars and say they want to use it to purchase a bus. And there is no plan, no strategic plan in the non-for-profit to use a bus, then the non-for-profit, for any number of reasons, might create or just say, hey, we're not going to accept those funds because it's not in our plan. It doesn't make good sense for us in accomplishing our mission, even though the donor wants to do it. So the non-for-profit does not have to accept those funds. But at the point that the non-for-profit does accept those funds, that non-for-profit is bound to follow the instructions of that donor and that agreement. And if it is very specified, the organization is on the hook to do that. And so at the point of receiving those funds, it's really critical. I've watched this happen sometimes in church work, and a gift will be given for a particular service. And the church is very appreciative to receive the gift, but now that church needs to follow through. One of the things that you'll find this week as you investigate some examples of this going wrong is that you will see that when the lawsuits come from the donor, it's that the non-for-profit allegedly did not use those funds in the manner that was agreed upon. And so be very careful when you accept the funds, and then when you do, make good to that donor. That not only builds great confidence with that donor, but the ones that are watching how you manage those funds. If you do an event and you say, hey, we're going to use these funds towards blah, 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 you've got to do that, or else you have to actually give those funds back to all those donors or get them to write a new agreement with you. That becomes pretty sticky when you've got an event. So one of the things you might consider if you have a large event, go pretty broad on what the cause is, because otherwise you're really on the hook to make sure that you use the funds accordingly. Anyways, good luck this week. Hope it goes well. I will see you in the online world. Don't hesitate to ask questions and keep learning. Don't miss the point of the class. The point of the class is to learn and grow. So make sure that you're doing that. Challenge each other. Let us know how we can help.